Everybody, welcome to the LaFrance Paradigm. I'm your host, Robert LaFrance. I have our guest, Donovan, here. He's with the Father's Truth podcast, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yep. And Alan, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you here?
Well, so what I do, I'm actually the creator and founder of Fathers Lives Matter. The Father's Truth is an offshoot of that. That's actually the podcast part of it. But I started Fathers Lives Matter back in 2015. I found myself in the middle of a custody battle, and I had gone online and looked around for help for single fathers, and I found nothing at all. Now, if I had been a mother, and this is nothing against mothers at all, but it's the truth. If I had been a mother, there was everything available under the sun, from rental assistance to food stamps to utility assistance, cell phone assistance. Everything was available for mothers, but there was nothing for fathers. And so that's when I started Fathers Lives Matter. And it's just kind of branched out from there. And as of now, I've been published in over 200 websites that span all across the world about what I'm doing and helping fathers, and letting fathers know that they're not alone out there, that there are other fathers going through this. And, it's a bridge for these guys, because a lot of times you feel like you have no support going through this. I know I didn't have support when I went through it. And I want to be able to assist these other fathers.
That's awesome, and it's a really hard thing to get involved in. Like when I was in the Navy, that's something that I saw all the time in the locker room, was just the dudes in the locker room either getting married, getting divorced, seeing their kids. It was just like it was a terrible thing to kind of develop. But I was like, man, if and when I get married, it's just a matter of time. I mean, like
Yeah.
look at all my peers. And when I was reading your About Me too, the year 2015 jumped out at me because that's when I separated from the military. I separated in September, and my daughter was born in December. And so I am one of your target audiences. I am a part of your target audience. I'm actually in the middle of some court stuff right now, so I can't talk too much about it. So we got to respect that. But it's essentially like it was a really tough scenario to be a father in a military family on a military island, and coming and going, and then doing the right thing for the kids. You don't hear a lot online. Men know because we talk to each other in the locker room and in our groups and stuff like that. But when you hear about men walking away, like usually that's all you hear. Like, oh, he left us. Like especially as a son, that my mom moved us around a lot growing up, and my dad was kind of in and out of my life for their own reasons. But like when you hear he's not with us, or you don't see them around, or he left, and you see this common thing, where do people hear the last part of the sentence? Like my dad told me, he's like, hey man, I just want to let you know that I'm going to be going away for a while. You know what I mean? Like, you see how the house is kind of going. This isn't the best environment. I love you so much. You can get a hold of me anytime, but I'm leaving. You know what I mean? And then like to be the man and the father, to put in that scenario again, like looking at my wife and our two daughters, and like trying to like in your kids are your world,
Yeah.
like your kids are your world. You do everything for them. You even go through some of the hardest times for them because you want to be the strength and the man that they look up to, and protect them. But for me, it came to a point where I had to make a decision. Like, is this healthy? Me being in this environment, not only for myself but for the kids. Like I can take some steps and some action if I start planning for it now, in 6 months, in a year. Like so I can really take care of myself. I was listening to some of your interviews and some of other people's experiences as well. And I think one of the common factors that I see is that everybody just wants it to be simple. They want it to be as simple as possible, and they'll figure it out later. Hey, let's just do what we got to do to get through this, and we'll figure it out later. The later part is the thing that people, or what I've read, less people prepare for.
Well, and that's exactly it. And another big part of that problem is that whole mindset. Let's just get through this and we'll deal with it later. Okay, that very rarely works out, because in that process of getting through this, fathers make a lot of critical mistakes. that come back to bite them in the butt on the later part of it. So I mean, you got to be really in the moment when you're doing this kind of stuff, when you're figuring out what you need to do. And in my opinion, you can't ever do it that way, because that way never works. I've seen it way too many times, and I've never seen a good outcome from it.
Yeah. What are some things, like what are some of the mistakes that you've seen that brings out?
So one of the biggest mistakes is fathers don't understand the family court system at all. And it's always seems like it's, the mother goes out, gets an attorney. Usually it's on the down low. The father doesn't know anything about it. And then one Friday afternoon, the father gets blindsided and gets served papers. Okay. At that point, the father freaks out, like a lot of us do. I was in that position. I didn't know what the hell to do. And by doing that, they get freaked out, and their first mistake is not understanding what they're dealing with. Okay, their second mistake is they'll usually go out and get the first lawyer that they talk to. They don't take the time to vet the lawyer, and lawyers, for their part, they're a lot like used car salesmen. I mean, they will tell you whatever they can to make that sale. And so fathers fall into that trap, and now they've got a lawyer that, frankly, doesn't care about them at all and is just there for the money. Those are the two biggest mistakes, and then that'll usually kill off 6 months where, now they've gone through this whole stretch where the lawyer hasn't done anything. They've gone to court, they've got their butt handed to them, and they're now a visitor in their child's life. And they're sitting there going, wow, what the hell happened? How did it get to this? Those are the two biggest mistakes I see time and time and time again.
Yeah, interviewing people, having a trustworthy professional, no matter what topic you want to talk about, is incredibly important. And doing your due diligence, because if you don't have the time or the resources to do it yourself, and you're going to hire or have someone represent you and take that liability off your shoulders. My background's in real estate, so I'm always about like, hey, if you can do it yourself, that's great, but understand that the professional that you want to hire does this a lot and has the experience to look out for your best interests. What I'm coming to discover is that the system or the courts, it's like it's whoever says something first, and whoever has the better case. I feel like with those two things, it sparks this this defensive thing. Like if someone's accusing me of being a car thief, I instead of saying, what does that have to do with what's at hand? Like, is there any substantiated proof that makes me a car thief, or are we just trying to project or change the topic? I'm here to see my daughter. Like for example, if I had filed a motion for contempt because I have 100 pages of documents saying that this is the agreement, this is proof of where the agreement was broken, and now let me just see my kid, and you see how things transform, and then the courts are like, oh, well, someone said, there's child abuse and this happening. Now let's put an all pause. Let's investigate this thing just to make sure. And it's like, well, wait a second. What happened to all this other stuff? Well, just in case this is happening, we need to look at it. And as a compassionate father, I'm like, okay, not only was I not seeing my kid enough in the get-go, now I'm seeing her, but now it's under supervision or underneath these circumstances, adding additional stress to me and our child.
Yeah.
Supervised visits, some people are like, oh, well, at least you get to see your kid. It's not even the same, because your kid just wants to be with you and comfortable, but you got someone that's looking at you, making things weird, or it's just like, it's not a comfortable environment.
And in that environment, you can't even truly be yourself.
Right.
Because essentially you're having to walk on eggshells, and you're having to second guess everything that you do with your child. Because is this person going to think that this is hostile? Is this not normal? What if my son likes to wrestle? Okay, I obviously can't really wrestle with him if I'm having a supervised visitation, because the chances are that that person that's doing the supervised visitation is not going to look at it at that, and is not going to report it as such to the courts. And it gets weird. I think supervised visitations are some of the dumbest things that the court system does. But one of the things I wanted to touch on is, okay, so I've been doing this for over 5 years. I've worked with thousands of fathers around the world. We're not just talking in the US, but I mean, I'm talking around the world, like the Philippines, Vietnam.
Wow.
I worked with the father in Vietnam, and the one striking thing, it doesn't matter the country, is the courts are always for the mother. The mother is up here, the father's down here. You know, when you walk into family court, and I experienced this myself, you know, you walk into family court as a father, you have a target on your back when you walk through those doors. Okay. The mom walks into family court, she is automatically presumed the better parent. She doesn't have to do anything to show her worth and her ability as a parent, but the dad does. And, you know, and it's not fair. You know, I mean, my opinion was when I walked into court, or my belief was when I walked into court, that my fundamental rights as a man and as a father were going to be upheld. You know, they were going to be on a base level with the mother. That couldn't have been further from the truth.
Wow.
You know, I was having to, you know, basically define myself as a person and as a father. And, you know, the mother, it was already presumed that she was the better parent. And I see that time and time again. So I don't think it's necessarily so much as who files first, because that's a big belief. You know, a lot of people say, okay, well, you're going to family court. You know, if you file first, you're going to have a better chance. No, you're going to have a better chance if you're a female.
Mm.
And that's just the truth, you know, because you see so many of these dads that are turned into, you know, every other weekend visitors. And, you know, let's be honest, a lot of the fathers that I've worked with, when you look at the situations that are going on with the mothers, they're not good parents. You know, drug addictions, partying all the time, all this other stuff. And the courts still side with the mother. And it should not be that way. It should be a baseline 50-50. And, you know, if the father is going to have to prove his worth as a parent, then the mother should have to prove her worth as a parent as well.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, my experience, it was because I was the finger pointed at, you know, this guy's
Yeah.
actually the real bad guy. It was like, okay, now you have now defend yourself. When I
Yeah.
first went into it, like, listen, here are my options. I'm either going to get what I want, or there's going to be an investigation open, and then from the investigation, they're going to find out what the best interest of the child is and who the better. No, they're really just looking for any supporting evidence that supports the claim that was filed.
Yeah.
And that's and I had a consult with someone a couple of weeks ago where I really learned how important posture and really representing yourself, caring about yourself, who you are as a person, caring about the kids, all these things that stack up to this point, and like how it changes. How I mean, I just learned about the 14th Amendment and the rights of the father and how to kind of use that within. I'm in the state of Connecticut, so I've been in the state of Connecticut's law libraries, looking up their precedences, looking up the cases, and trying to match them what's been going on in my case, and trying to use that so I can say like, this is how I need to position myself and posture myself and defend and look out for the best interest, because these action items define child abuse. Even though there's no bruises being left, this is legitimate child abuse, and this is how it needs to be made. I was originally just going to sit back and be like, listen, the other party's going to do all the heavy lifting. There's going to be an investigation. They're going to figure it out. I started hearing the questions and the way that I was being spoken to, and I was like, okay, I need to do some research. Oh, this is completely voluntary. Oh, nobody, I was strong armed and muscled into reduced visitation just by being in the process of being the good, quiet father. Hey, this is what needs to be happening. I don't understand. Well, this is the same process. Well, I guess I got to bite my lip and go forward. A few weeks go by. I guess I voluntarily agreed to a plan. Stopped seeing my kid for a while. Then the investigations closed. The they were closed because they were on unsubstantiated evidence. So now proceed. And now my daughter's looking at me like, yo, where have you been for the last 8 weeks? And it's
Yeah.
just like the Norwich Superior Court even has on their website, and they're like, listen, you really need to communicate as parents. Do not bring your kid to the court. This process takes a toll on everybody. This process is going to take a toll on the kid. And if you do this and you're in the wrong, there's going to be consequences.
Oh, yeah.
So this is you see all the cases, and what I'm really concerned about, because Judgment Day is coming up soon for my case, and I'm confident that I'm going to see my daughter more than I do anyway. Like anything, I feel like I put my case together, and I'll definitely talk about it after my hearing. But like, I feel like I got everything packaged as really good as possible. That even my worst expectation, I would still see my kid more than what I am now. You know, and that's a win for me because
Yeah.
any presence in my daughter's life is going to be beneficial for her. Like,
No, I absolutely agree with you. And I think, going back to what you were saying about being strong armed into, agreeing to this or signing these documents, that happens on a regular basis because it goes back to, once again, that the father finds themselves in an unfamiliar situation, and a lot of times there are false allegations that get filed against fathers. It's actually a well-known technique called the silver bullet technique. I don't know if you're familiar with that, if you've ever heard of that, but
no,
it is something that is a big deal in family court circles. Basically what it comes down to is the mother files for a RO against the father, okay, and either claims domestic abuse or sexual abuse towards the children, okay. And so what that does is that automatically triggers the father's removal from everybody's life, usually for 8 weeks at the very minimum. And it's really hard for the fathers to fight. I mean, it's almost impossible for a father to fight that because it'll remove them from the family house, any of that stuff. Usually they'll lose their job, because it gets around, and it's a stigma that is attached to that father, and it's very hard to fight. But it's something that is encouraged in the family court system. I see that more often than not, that there's false allegations that are present, and it destroys fathers because they find themselves in situations where they agree to these terms or they sign these documents under duress, okay, and they feel like they're forced. This is the only option that they have, and then on the back end they find themselves in this freaking never ending maze of trying to jump through all these hoops to get back to see their kid. And it's horrible. It should not be that way.
It's exhausting. It really is. Like, I feel like I said, Judgment Day is right around the corner, and I've been pretty much fighting to be in my daughter's life since before she was born. So I'm going on 5 years of this, and I'm just like waiting to like not have to defend myself as a human being anymore. Like not have to deal with these high stress and anxious environments with other people who can like snap in an instant and then try to like paint a dirty picture.
Oh yeah, it's a meat grinder. Family court is an absolute meat grinder. And it's no wonder that you have so many fathers out there that end up committing suicide because of this kind of BS that they have to go through, and it's constant, the constant allegations, having to prove themselves. And realistically, the only thing that they're guilty of is wanting to be a part of their child's life.
It's when I first discovered like borderline personality disorder, when I first discovered that term, and like I did all the tests, like are you in a abusive relationship wheel and all, I was doing all those things,
Yep.
and I came across that. I was like, wow, this definition really fits my scenario and how it felt, because I mean, it is a part of my story, and this is my story is what it is, and that's why I respect people like you and who are doing the father's rights thing, because as passionate as I am about empowering people to know the process to make conscious decisions to live a life on their terms, this niche right here, this topic isn't something that I can breathe every day, like because it puts me back. It puts me back to when I was holding the revolver. Like I didn't follow through, but I thought about it. I was in so much pain. I felt like I had a demon on my back, and I literally felt I was looking for 12 pounds of pressure with the revolver in my head. And I don't know if I can't remember at this point in time whether or not I had my baby here or if I heard her scream from a distance, some type of like, if I heard a shout of a baby, but I was like, I can't be doing this. And then also like I can't give some other person control over me, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like changing me as a person. So between all these things that like nice guys that want to be a dad, who want to be a part of their family's life, who want to do right, whether it was an intentional pregnancy or whatever, like these people are just getting chopped up, like you said, as meat grinder. It's really hard to keep going. So thank you for what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said at the onset of this, I was where you guys are at, all these years ago, and because I was able to get myself out of it, I was able to teach myself family law, in 2 different states and represent myself, not once but twice, and walk away with full custody of my son. I want to be able to give back, because I know where you guys have been at. I know everything that you're dealing with, and I just want to help. I don't want to see another father go through that again. I don't want to see another father take their own lives. I mean, one of the things that I never really anticipated when I started doing this was, the suicide calls. Getting a call from a father who saw me online, who saw one of the videos I did, and they're suicidal. I've had that happen numerous times, and it's gut-wrenching, because I have to try and figure out who this person is. I mean, the last time I had it happen, I spent 4.5 hours on the phone tracking this person down in California. I had to go through, several different sheriff's offices, police departments to finally find this guy. But I was actually out at lunch with my son, and I got a text that said, brother, I can't do this anymore. And I was like, okay, who is this? Because I didn't recognize the phone number. And I started calling the number, and there was no answer at first. And I was like, oh, crap. And he finally answered. And what his plan was is this was on a Saturday. He was going to go out to breakfast with his son that next day on Sunday. They were going to go see a movie. He was going to drop him off, and then he was going to go park on the train tracks and let the train hit him. And, it's so heartbreaking, to hear these guys, and to hear them talk and how they think that, their child is going to be better off without them. And, it's heartbreaking because these guys are not coming from, in my mind, they're not coming from a place in reality. And they don't see the fact that, if you go out there and you kill yourself, every nasty, shitty thing that was said about you becomes the truth.
Right.
That's the realistic view of it. It becomes the truth. And, the other part of it is, your child is going to take on that guilt. They're going to have that huge, huge guilt in their life, because they're going to be saying, why did my dad kill themselves? Was I to blame? Did I not love him enough? Did I not show him enough? And they're going to carry that on in their life. And it's just going to be a repeating cycle, and this part of it kind of dovetails into what you were saying about that domestic violence when circle that we were looking at that defined everything. As much as domestic violence is talked about for women, and I'm not discounting women that are victims of domestic violence because it happens, okay, but there's just as many men that are victims of domestic violence as well, and it's not accounted for, and it's not taken seriously. Because you're a big, strong, strapping guy, and you're getting beat on by this little woman. It happens. I mean, I've posted numerous videos of guys getting abused, and more often than not, they're looked at and they're laughed at.
Yeah.
Because number one, they're a guy. Number two, they're getting abused by a female. But it does happen, and depending on where you look at statistics-wise, the statistics for a man being physically abused by a partner is actually higher than a female being physically abused by her partner.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. It's one of those dirty little secrets, that nobody really wants to talk about because nobody's ready to admit that females can be just as horrible and more violent than males can be on average.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be physical. It doesn't have to be physical. The emotional abuse is so much worse because, I mean, the trauma it has as you you question your reality. Like, am I thinking right now? You know what I mean? Like, especially when the finger has been pointed at you for so long, you're like questioning yourself. You got to check in with friends. Like, hey, this is what's going on. This is where I'm at. Does this make sense? Is this right? Did I do something wrong? Whatever. Like we have to touch home this to keep reality. It makes decisions hard. So.
No, it does. It's a very hard thing to deal with, and unfortunately, there's so many guys out there that are dealing with it. And the really sad part is, a lot of those guys are scared to speak up about it because of the ridicule and harassment by other people. So they keep it a secret, and they just deal with it.
Yeah, I had this realization not too long ago that, like, at one point, like listen, I want to do as little damage as possible. I just want to be around. I want, this would be, everybody wants this to be as easy as possible, you would think, right? And then there's the other sign where you understand that in order to really be there for your child who you love so much, you need to take certain action. You need to take control of the scenario. Okay. You need to rescue someone from child abuse because emotional and or physical. That's what drives me crazy when you do these wellness checks, when you call the police.
Yeah.
If an attorney advises you to do wellness checks, they go and say, hey, happy, healthy kid, but they don't see what mom's saying. They don't see how they're, twisting words and making beliefs different and change when they, in that short interaction. So that's one of the hardest things that you have to do is like, you gotta recognize that although you don't want to cause damage and you want this to be as simple as possible because you've already dealt with so much abuse, you're ready for it to end. In order for you to be there and secure the best interest in your child is that you have to take control of the situation. You have to rescue them out of that environment. Okay, if you're in a scenario where you're not doing the 50-50 and you need to rescue somebody out, you need to be the big man. You need to be the father and you need to rescue your kid out of there. What's his name? Mario Castro or whatever, the guy with 3 women in his basement. Like
I'm not familiar with him.
I just read an article. I heard a name pop through. James was talking about another father's right. James, How I Got Custody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he brought up like, listen, this guy who had 3 women in his basement, they didn't slowly reintroduce them to the community and into the other people's lives. They rescued them out of that harmful, toxic environment, and now they're rehabilitating them. That's kind of like what we have to do for our kids in those scenarios. Yeah, we don't want to go through this as much as possible, but we also got to stand there for our kids, and our kids are going to be grateful for it. Like even this last Saturday when I saw my daughter, she was like still checking in with me, asking me questions, like, oh yeah, what about this? What about that? They're answering correctly. Next thing you know, we're still doing trust falls. She's telling me about her gymnastics and how she climbs ladders. And I'm like, oh, hey, can I spot you? Is it okay if I spot you? Do you have coaches in gymnastics? Yeah. Okay. Well, can I be your coach? Oh yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? So the relationship that you have with your kid, and you need to protect that because I feel like that's what the courts are looking for. You do have a target on your back. Yeah, you do have to prove yourself. Yeah, you do have to answer to these false or true allegations. But if you have the best interest and you know what you got to do and you understand what's at stake, you gotta take that action and learn about Civil Rule 11, or attorneys taking on clients with false allegations and how they're responsible to make sure that their client that they're taking on is either telling the truth or something's going to come about later that's going to secure the representation. Like, you don't know that. You don't know that stuff.
Well, and that's one of the biggest things about family court that I've found is, it almost operates off of the perception of fear. Okay. Because when you go into court, it's fucking scary. I'm not going to lie. It's a very scary thing. And, family court feeds off that fear because you get these guys in here that, number one, they don't want to be there. Number two, they don't understand how it works. And, that's how family court operates. And, what I found is once I figured out how family court works, like the language that's used, legalese and how it's applied to everything. And, just basically understanding how family court works, how they talk, that took so much fear away. And it became this really easy, doable thing for me. And I was able to go through it and do it and, communicate with attorneys and communicate with the courts with, 0 problems. And that took so much weight off of it. It was unreal. And, I see that time and time again with these dads going into family court. They don't know how to act. They don't know the procedures, and it crushes them. That, fear is a very real and tangible thing. I mean, having been in the military, I would suspect that you have a pretty good understanding of how fear can be a really big motivator, or it can absolutely kill you.
Absolutely. That's what I try to bring back to light, resurface that because, as a young man or any person, as a young adult joining the military anywhere from 17 to 20, 21 years old, when you're a young adult joining the military, you don't know what you're about to get into. You don't know. I mean, I'm 32, so this was just a few years ago for me. But to look back and look where I was and how the military was, it's like you only know what you know. And so you had enough confidence and courage to enlist in the military, crawl under barbed wire, go to combat, go to boot camp, serve your country in whatever fashion that you did. And then there's times like separating from the military, trying to start a business, trying to find a job, trying to secure your position as a father, where we lose that strength and posture that we had and that belief in ourselves before when we signed up to do that other stuff. And then here that fear overruns us because we don't know that we can just call the clerk's office and ask for like, hey, this is what I want to do. What form do I need? They can't give you legal advice, but they can answer the questions. And next thing you know, you're developing relationships with the clerk's office, learning the lingo. And then when you go to court, guess who's in the courtroom? It's the clerk that you've been talking to. It's the judge that's been in the back office. So just, you got to get out there, give some effort and read some stuff. And when you start learning how, we were talking about the internet, you got to love the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
The internet making us accessible to reach out to our peers and to get the resources of the law libraries. So I look at them, I'm going to find out come Judgment Day, but I'm looking at these things like this is the rule book of how to play the game. You learn how to play the game, you put a bow on it and you give it to them, and then you prepare to answer any of the questions. Being military, it's all about having hard facts, being a party that's been on the receiving end of false allegations and seeing how that's packaged together. And then you have your package that has call logs, dates, emails, check-ins, witnesses. I feel like you can't argue that with a bunch of words and an attorney.
Well, and that's exactly it. With family court, the biggest thing is it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And you can prove it by having documentation, documenting everything. That's one of the main things that I tell dads. Hey, you guys got to start being able to write down every little thing. I don't care how stupid you think it is. Okay, write it down. I mean, you need to become a pro at documentation. When I walked into court the first time, well, technically the first time that I represented myself, I walked into court with 13 binders filled full of documentation over the last 6 months. I had everything, emails, texts, I tried to call my son at this time. It lasted for this many minutes, so on and so forth. I got pictures of him. This is how he looked in the pictures, everything. You have to document every little thing, no matter how mundane it seems to you, because it could very well be, the thing that changes your whole case when it gets right down to it. So it's very much, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. Really, I am. Because of going back to the fear aspect of things and being foreign, being in somebody else's house, someone else can say is in control of it. There's always that uncertainty aspect of things.
And it's time for your math class.
Hey, Alexa.
Hold on.
That's awesome.
Sorry about
that.
But what were you saying there before Alexa interrupted us?
The fear aspect, that's what's always, you can be as prepared, like whether it's court or an exam, you can study as much as possible and you're prepared, but there's that unknown factor. And that's what gets me, in the courthouse, especially when there's like high stakes, your role as a father, seeing your kid, jail time, fines, anything, and that's where in entrepreneurship, or I definitely learned this in the military, we have what's called I love me binders. Nobody cares about your career more than you do. No matter what, that's something that everybody should apply in everything they do. Nobody cares about your career, your job, your family more than you do. And when it comes to this, the documentation is really going to help you. And I'll be honest to say, I've been exhausted. I don't like keeping years of text messages and accidentally seeing them, or like just having this whole thing where you just constantly have to track. It's exhausting. And I hope maybe you can shed some light on this because you've tasted success and on more than one occasion. Does the weight go someplace else? Am I going to get an abundance of energy that I can put back into myself and my business once I don't have to worry about doing that?
Once you get to that point where documentation does not run your life 24/7, yeah, you're going to feel a weight off your chest. But the bigger aspect of it is you're going to find that documenting has become a core principle in your life because you've been doing it so long, it becomes second nature. You don't even think about it. And, I still find that to this day, that I have become a details person, simply because I had to become a details person. And, so many fathers bemoan that fact that they have to record all this stuff, and it's hard. I hated doing it at first. The first couple months I sucked. I would forget something. I'd be like, oh God, I should probably write that down. Okay, well, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow and I'll do it tomorrow. And, so many fathers are like that because, let's face it, in modern life, and especially as a father that is dealing with that, you oftentimes don't have the mental energy or the emotional energy to play secretary for 5 hours a night, to transcribe everything, and other than that, your life is busy because, if you're like most dads, you're paying probably outrageous child support, and you still have to pay your own bills. You still have to somehow keep your head above water, and throwing in documentation, is just one more thing on top of your already really full plate. But, once you get to the point where you don't have to do it anymore, you're going to find that you still do it because it's become second nature. It's a habit now. Because what is it that they say, is it 30 days to a new habit, to forming a new habit?
Something like that, yeah.
It becomes a new habit, and it's something that you carry on. And, being an entrepreneur like yourself, that is a very good thing to be able to do and not have to second guess it or think about it. So, I mean, there is a plus to the situation.
Yeah, I want to give kudos to the guys out there, guys and gals, the parents out there really in tough positions, because right now we're talking about being secretary to an already stressful scenario. My scenario was I was in between households. I was traveling between Guantanamo Bay and Virginia Beach. Houses are rented. I'm bouncing between. I'm essentially homeless. I'm not welcome in my home that's an island. And I definitely have no place to be comfortable in Virginia Beach. I'm sleeping on my couch in a place that I used to live at. You know what I mean? And so, like, my business is taking a hit, and especially when you're in sales and personal development and communication is key, connecting with other people. You got this baggage on you. Your business is taking a decline. You're taking up other jobs, newspaper routes, security. You're not getting any sleep. You're doing everything you can to keep going for this cause. So I want to let you know that you are not alone. I give you kudos. I've done it, and it is incredibly exhausting. And as long as you keep pushing through and documenting and never giving up on yourself or your cause, you'll get through it. Just like everything else in our life, just keep going.
Well, and that's absolutely true. One of the things that I tell fathers is, a custody battle is not a sprint. Okay, it's not how fast you can do it. A custody battle, it's a marathon. It's a war of attrition, and even though most of the time it looks like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, there is light at the end of that tunnel. It's just a matter of being able to get to that light. That's the hard part, because you got to go through all this stuff. And, you got to understand that there's days that you get up where you just hate the world, and you got to deal with a lot of shit. But at the end of the day, it's absolutely worth it. I look at my son who's behind us playing Minecraft right now. I wouldn't change that for the world. I wouldn't change the hell I went through to still be a part of his life. So it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah. I think those words right there, it's worth it, are the biggest things that people need to remember. Because when it gets hard, I mean, that's why a lot of us leave, because, like, the bullshit isn't worth it. This isn't good for the family. The bullshit isn't worth it. I'm leaving. And then up until you know what to do, you're only doing what you can do. So.
Well, and the toughest part about this whole thing is it's so easy to only see it from our perception, what we're dealing with. You really need to take a look at your child and what your child is dealing with. And, we need to understand that our children didn't have a say in who their parents are, and they certainly didn't have a say of being stuck in the middle of this. And they're the ones that lose more often than not. It's the children. They're the ones that suffer the most. And what you and I suffer as a father sucks, but it's magnified 10 times for what that child suffers, because more often than not, the child is forced to have to choose, Well, do you love mom? Well, of course they love mom. Well, do you love dad? Well, of course you love dad. Well, you're not supposed to love dad. Dad's a horrible person. And they get put in this position. And, it's truthfully, it's so not fair to them because it creates so much trauma and destroys, their childhood because, they find that they can't have a relationship with dad because mom gets pissed off about that. It's not cool, and it should never have been this way, and it needs to change.
You're absolutely right. I transformed from, originally like, hey, let me see my kid. I mean, I'm really thinking about like, listen, I love being a dad. I really want to be in this. Let me see it was really about me. It was about both of us, but you're like, I want to be around, yeah, I'm allowed to have wants and desires too. And then as things continue to transform and new incidents happen, or I reflect on incidents that just happened, I'm like, man, my daughter's crying. She's touching the car glass window, the window, being like, daddy, as she gets pulled away from something, and it's just like, does anybody else see what they're doing to the kid here? Like, we can have a conversation. We can handle this in the right way. You should never just rip a kid away and then take off. I think both of us would love to get a hug before we leave. It's okay to have an argument. It's okay to have a disagreement. It's not okay to not want to talk about what's happening and then pull the kid away and then storm off. I've seen videos of I saw some video where a mom was like taking a baseball bat to a guy's car with the kids inside.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah. The insanity, has become very real. And with social media, mothers have taken to filming themselves doing this kind of stuff, beating on their, baby daddy, destroying his stuff. I saw one video, it was, I guess, I want to say it was last year, where she set his Jeep on fire on social media. And everybody was cheering her on. And, the latest thing now on TikTok, you have these women that are making these videos about disturbing baby daddy's child support and how it's such a great thing and how they're, boss bitches and, all this ridiculous stuff. Social media is horrible for that kind of stuff, and it just propagates it. And it's unreal how many people are cheering these women on, to do this kind of stuff. It's unreal. Blows me away.
It is. So with that being said, let's kind of talk about what are some of the projects you're working on right now. What is, you got Father's Rights. I saw your truck convoys. Those are super cool. Like, it looked like you had a convoy of trucks and everybody's in the bed with the signs and everything like that.
So what that was is last year in May, they had what's called a cruise here in town because people were just getting tired of COVID. Number one, they were getting tired of not being told that, they couldn't assemble, they couldn't do all this stuff. So it was actually a guy that owns a old custom car. He's part of a club. They started doing this thing where they dragged Maine. And it was all these different kinds of cars, trucks, whatever the case may be. It went from your Toyota shitbox all the way up to Lambos and everything in between. And, I got to thinking, hey, this would be a really good time to start advertising Fathers Lives Matter. So I went out, got the sign printed up, and we rode in the bed of this truck up and down Main Street for, 2 or 3 hours. And, it was funny, the reactions I got. I got a lot of, thumbs up, but, then I got the women that were pissed off, that didn't like to see a dad out there, touting father's rights. And so it was funny. It just kind of went back and forth. But that was last summer. I think we're planning on doing it again this summer. I've got 2 books in the works. One book details, my life growing up to the point where I started Fathers Lives Matter. And then the other book takes off from there and goes into detail about Fathers Lives Matter and everything that I dealt with going through that process to where we are right now. I'm in the works trying to get The Father's Truth turned into a series on Netflix or Hulu, trying to get it, put into a proper reality series almost, kind of like a docudrama, I guess, sort of thing. So I'm working on that and, just trying to get people to understand that, as fathers, our lives matter just as much as anybody else's lives, and they matter to our children. That's the big thing. Is, you know, children need their fathers growing up. I don't know if you're a statistics guy, but if you look at, you know, most recent statistics for 2019 and 2020, you know, we are facing a situation where we've got, I want to say it was the first one or two generations that are being raised in single family households that, you know, it's primarily mothers raising that, you know, the statistics for crime, drugs, early pregnancy are just off the charts. It's not a good thing. You know, these are the people that are going to be taking over this world when you and I are old and in the retirement home, and it is not a good thing that's coming up right now.
Yeah, no, you gotta. I really like the philosophy is, you know, it takes a village to raise a child.
Mhm.
You know, like, and I've always been that person. You know, like whether or not this child is mine or related to me. You know, like if they're not acting right, polite manner in a public place. You know what I mean? Like obviously I'm not going out of my way to discipline other people's children, but you come in my circle, you're not being a good human being with morals. You're about to get dadded. You're about to get calibrated.
Yeah, nope, I definitely understand that. But yeah, no, that's basically what's going on in my world. I'm starting season 2 of The Father's Truth, and you are going to be on it.
Yes,
We've
sir.
got you all set up, so we're going to get you on there, talk about your story, and see what's going on with that. And you know, other than that, I'm just trying to live my best life in this. You know, I guess I don't want to say a post-COVID world yet because we're not quite to the post part yet. But no, just trying to make adjustments to how quickly the world is changing and going in a different direction, which is, you know, kind of unreal. You know, I grew up hearing about all this kind of stuff, and it was always fantasy stuff. And I never thought I would live to see the day where this kind of thing is becoming a reality. But, you know, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, damn, dude, the government's going to be releasing a lot of documentation about aliens in a few months. So, like,
That gets me so excited. That right there, dude, I love that. I'm like, no way. 180 days to disclosure? Shut up.
oh,
You
I've
know,
been in
that
the I've been in the declassified. Like, I'll fall down a TikTok hole of these people talking about consciousness and declassifieds and brainwash and consciousness, all kinds of stuff.
no, the thing that got me was oh god, what was it, last summer when the Pentagon announced that they have spacecraft not of this world? I was like, wow, did they really just say they have spacecraft not of this world?
Yeah. Did
You know,
anybody
and
else hear that? Because we've been hearing the
yeah,
opposite for a really long time, and they just said that really casually.
well, and that was the crazy thing. It got absolutely just about zero airplay. It was not a big deal. It was like, oh yeah, Pentagon said this. I'm like, how the fuck is that not a big deal? I mean, to understand what the significance of what that means, I was just like, wow. I mean, for me, that blows me away. But I mean, for people just to be like, yeah, whatever. You know, I'm just like, holy shit. Wow.
That kind of stuff right there, especially with like the media right now and like the Mandela effect. Like
Yep.
for those who don't know what the Mandela effect is, it's essentially there's a large group of people in the world that remember one thing being one thing, such as Mandela dying in prison. And then there's another group of people where he's still alive today, and there's the
Mhm.
same thing with the Bernstein Bears
Yeah.
and the
Being bears.
Monopoly guy. Yeah,
Yep.
Monopoly guy with the monoglass, and people are coming up with all this stuff, or pointing this out, making people aware of it, and it's really interesting. Some people are like, nah, nah, and it's gonna slip in there just like that. One of those things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, it's so easy for me to fall down the conspiracy web, you know, the conspiracy rabbit hole. It doesn't matter if it's consciousness, UFOs, you know, dimensional shifts, whatever the case may be. I love that crap. You know, I'll find myself up at 3 o'clock in the morning on the weekends, you know, Googling this kind of stuff. It's just something that I love.
Me too, because I think like this is perfect because as you were just talking about your books, like as a business owner, and I see the opportunity to write books on my life because my childhood has kind of brought me to who I am and where I am today. And then my recent experiences have made me who I am and where I'm going,
Yeah,
and I wonder if your books are kind of the same way. Your first book, you talk about your upbringing, your childhood. Did that kind of get you to this point?
it does. Because I was a product of divorce. I was a product of a really brutal custody battle where I was getting pulled into the principal's office. Oh, hey, we got to go see a doctor. Okay, well, why do we have to go see a doctor? Well, you came home with this bruise. Okay, well,
Kids play hard. Sorry.
Yeah, kid, I felt.
Does everybody forget about that?
Yeah, well, and that's exactly it. And that's what it was like, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And growing up, I was 10 years old, and I told myself, if I was ever a parent, I would never put my child in that kind of position where, there's this brutal tug of war going back and forth, and, they don't care about your feelings. They only care about hurting each other. And I made that promise to myself, and thankfully I was able to go through that process without doing what was done to me, to my son. But yeah, absolutely. It's funny when I think about it and where I'm at now, and how it kind of mirrors what it was like for me growing up, from a parent's perspective of what they were dealing with versus what I'm dealing with. It's almost kind of a mirror, and ironically enough, when I was growing up, my father kind of disappeared out of my life after everything went down. And it got to the point where I remember I was a sophomore in high school. I'd been playing football and I tore my knee. Okay, I tore my tendon in my knee. I had to have surgery. Okay, so my mom couldn't take me in, and I called the old man, asked him if he could take me in, and he wanted me to pay him gas money.
Wow.
And I was like, really? I'm your son. I need to have surgery on my knee, and you want me to pay gas? What the fuck? But that's how it was.
Some people's children.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if they're adults.
But yeah, no, it's very much a case in point on that, on how growing up kind of put me to where I'm at now. And I think in a lot of ways it gave me that power to push through, to go through the whole custody thing, to represent myself, and ultimately to win, so that I could have my son in my life, because I remember what it was like on the other side of that coin.
I like what you said about how it pretty much mirrors, how it's pretty much a mirror, because I grew up, I'd consider a broken household, drugs, violence, inconsistent male role model in the house. And
Mhm.
and as a kid, like, obviously I'm grateful for my parents doing the best they could do with what they had to get me, to a successful adult that I am today. But like as a kid, seeing mommy say, "Get out of here," you're seeing your mom yell at your dad and telling them to leave, and then they leave, and there's no conversation. Well, if
Yeah.
dad left for a while and mom was the last one to say something, I guess dad's in trouble. Dad's in timeout. And then, like, this becomes normal. This is what we also need to be aware of, parents today, and then also young adults who are still figuring themselves out, not recognizing what trauma is, or just being like, oh, that was just, me as a kid, I pushed past it. And when you got a real group of people who love and care about you and have like good upbringings and have like both parents in their lives or some type of thing where they're there for you, I don't think I've ever received so much support uh, ever as much as I've had these last couple of years, where people are like, "Oh wow, you're like an abused child. You don't even know how to take a compliment." Like, oh, like what's the point of this? So where I'm leading to is all these experiences have led up to where you are right now, and in order for you to prevent them from happening again, because I essentially married my mom. I essentially almost recreated the same living environment that I had been in as a child, and that's what made me stop. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be my dad in this environment. It made me realize a lot of things that a man in my mom's life had gone through, which answered
Yeah.
a lot of questions. And I'm definitely not going to do this, nor am I going to show my baby girl that this is how you treat the person that you love. Nor am I going to show my baby girl that this is how you should be treated. This isn't how a man or a woman should be treated, and you need to respect yourself. And if that isn't happening, you need to leave. And so,
Yeah.
and then so as you recognize that, going back to the TikTok holes of consciousness, I like to think of this like, if I'm in control, if I can meditate, if I'm an extension of the sun, or whatever, if I'm an unlimited spiritual being trapped in a physical presence trying to gain experience to remember who I am, whatever rabbit hole you want to go down, how powerful does that make you feel, knowing that you have a choice to control and all you have to do right this second is to take action towards whatever your goals are. I'm going to look up a lie library. I'm going to log that nasty email that I just got. I'm going to try to call my kid, even if I know that the phone's not going to answer. You know, I'm
Well,
100. You know,
and that's the big thing. We have so much power, so much power. We just have to remember that fact. And the big thing is we have to stop giving other people the power over us, you know, because that's another huge thing. And I see that all over. I mean, like looking at my Facebook right now, I've got it up on one of my other monitors, you know, and I'm looking through it, and it's nothing but people talking about bad relationships, how they were done wrong, this person did wrong. You know, I just want to scream at them, you know what? Stop giving that person power over you. Okay. Once you stop doing that, everything shifts. You realize that you actually have the power to do what you need to do. It's just a matter of, you know, not giving that power away, frankly, you know, because people do it every day in all these little different ways. And, you know, someone doesn't have power over you unless you give it to them, you know, and that's one of the critical mistakes I see.
Yeah, that's 100% truth right there. And you don't want to let people win. You know, like look at it however you want. You know, my lovely girlfriend, my better half now, you know, she gets caught up in our stuff sometimes, you know, and it's, you know, because she's been my daughter. She was my daughter growing up. You know, I mean, she didn't have her dad around. She was raised great, told all kind of great things, but you know, she doesn't want to see my daughter be in that position that she saw growing up, you know. So like she gets caught up in some of the evil things that my former does. And it's like, listen, don't let her win. She wants us to yell at each other. She wants us to be upset with her. You know, she wants to wedge her knife in. And anytime you give her that ounce of uncertainty or like upsetness, you're letting her win, and that don't give her that justification.
Yep. No, absolutely agree with you. You know, and let's face it, there are people that they live off of drama that they create. You know, if there's no drama, you know, they create drama in order to feast off that. You know, energetic vampires. You know, that's a very real thing. You know, whether or not you want to believe it, it is a very real thing. And it seems like most of the dads out there that I've encountered, you know, they have exes that thrive off of that. And it's sad. It's really sad.
It is. It is. And no matter what the topic is, what you can do to protect yourself and your mental health and your goals is to be the best version of yourself. Okay. And everybody starts somewhere. You know, I mean, I didn't know that I was a young, angry, wiry asshole of a young man. You know what I mean? Like until you start, you know, it doesn't matter how many people tell you that you're a bad person. You're like, oh, what does that guy know? You know, when you really start looking at yourself in the mirror and talking to yourself in the mirror, and you're like, listen, I need to be the best version of myself for whatever reason that is that making you realize this right now. It's only going to help you in the long run.
Yeah.
It's only going to help you in the long run. So as we come to the end here, because this is a beautiful Sunday afternoon with me, and I want to make sure that you have time with your family. Before we go, what are the name of your books so people can find them and support you?
So I don't have names of them yet. I'm still actually working on getting them out. But as soon as I come up with a working title, I will absolutely let you know.
Okay, perfect. Well, we're definitely going to have a link for your website and your Instagram on the bottom when we put the description in. For those who are listening, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. So if you just type in Fathers Lives Matter, that's me. I'm the only one on Instagram with that. And, you know, you can always reach out to me. One of the big things that I'm all about, and I really, what's the word I'm looking for here? I really make a big deal of is the fact that if you DM me, I will always DM you back. And it's me that's DMing you. It's not a team member or anything like that. It is actually me. So if you do DM me, just realize that it's probably likely going to take a couple days to get back to you because I do get anywhere from 100 to 150 DMs a day. So I've got to be able to go through, sort out all that stuff, you know, get the chaff from the wheat or whatever, however they say it. And I will get back to you. You can find me at thefatherstruth.com as well. That's my actual official website. So that's, you know, those are the two easiest ways to find me.
Perfect. And how can, you know, you're doing so much for so many people. How can we support you? How can we help your cause? What are you looking for? I think I know a couple contacts within the film industry that could help maybe guide you in the right direction for your
Would be a great thing.
documentary.
That would be a great thing. One of the big things is get the word out. Another thing is, and I absolutely hate this part of it, but it has to be done, donations. Donations are always a big thing, because I am funding this completely 100% out of my pocket.
Wow.
You know, as a single dad that doesn't get child support or anything like that, it gets kind of tough, to be honest with you. So, I mean, if you do want to donate, you go to the website. There is actually a link to PayPal to do a donation. That's probably the easiest way.
Even a dollar,
Yeah.
everybody, every little bit counts. You know, like when you're in a really hard time, you start counting and pinching your pennies. You know, you stop paying your certain bills because some other things are more important. You know, donate a dollar, anything that you can, and if you can't, show support and just share this. Okay, awareness is everything right now, and these are really, really important things. Like fathers' lives matter, fathers' rights matter, veterans' lives matter. Your life matters. Everybody deserves to be happy and live the best version of themselves in the best life. So thank you so much, Alan. I appreciate you coming on. And our next interview will be you'll be the host, and it's on Instagram, right? It'll be an Instagram Live.
Instagram Live. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm looking forward to having you on there, hearing your story, and maybe hearing some stories from the time you were in the military, if possible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Alan, and thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to the LaFrance Paradigm. This is where we learn and share strategies for an impact. They say courage is contagious, and the rising tide lifts all ships. Okay, so help me, help you, help your friends. All right, take care. All right, awesome, Alan. This was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you, you know, like signing up and everything, right? You know, even though we haven't had our interview yet, and hardly even knowing anything about me, I just really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
so,
you know, I appreciate you giving me the chance to come on your show. That's awesome. You know, that's the big thing. You know, if we can get each other out there, you know, I'm all about that, helping you. You know, you help me. It's a marvelous thing.
You know, I'd be open to just checking back in every once in a while. Like, not only will I have Judgment Day, and we'll really be able to go my story on your interview on your podcast, but sharing stories. This is, like I said, this is too close to home for me right now. I got to stay on what my purpose is, but touching on what's important. You know, like on social media marketing, they say, you know, you are what you do, and then you have 5 topics that you want to talk about to keep, you know, to develop a relationship with your audience, and then, you know, stay true to who you are. You know, talk about different things. Don't just talk about the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Is what some people say. So this is something that I am going to touch in and stay relevant on, because, especially like you said, because if you tasted success, if it worked for you, and if it works for me, other people got to know about it. You know, like that's the whole point of this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, I think it's right now, it's still relatively a pretty big secret in family law that you can actually go out and represent yourself. I actually talked to a father the other night in California. He's like, you can't do that. I said, yes, you can. You can absolutely go out there and represent yourself. You know, it's actually one of your constitutional rights. When you really start digging, you find out. He's like, no, my lawyer told me you couldn't do that. I said, okay, hold on a second. And I went into, you know, the California.gov site, and, you know, I found everything that flat out says you can represent yourself. And I gave that to him, and I was like, here it is. It's your very own state website saying that, yes, you can represent yourself. Well, that's not what I was told. And I said, well, you know why that's not what you were told? Because you're taking money away from them.
Right.
Well, what do you mean? I said, you know, you got to understand, family court is built on the dollar. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a judge, if you're a clerk, if you're a lawyer, it's all part of it. You know, and by you representing yourself, you're not paying some slimy ass greedy attorney to represent you. So, I mean, you're keeping some of your money out of the system, and they don't like that. They don't like that at all.
I was trying to do it myself for a while, but between I already had communication problems with my former spouse, trying to communicate with her about getting the paperwork done to do the divorce. It was just nearly impossible. And I had to work. So I was like, I'm going to get an attorney. And my girlfriend, you know, cause I had been separated, and, you know, look at me, I'm not going to be single for long. You know, like if you don't appreciate me, someone else is. No.
Right.
I did have all my teeth at the time of meeting Nicole, so this is only temporary. So she had Legal Shield as an employee benefit from her companies, and I had known somebody from a networking event, so I was like, let me see what this is about. It's essentially a limited access to an attorney, and then any have you heard of it? You probably have. You're in the
I actually looked at going with Legal Shield at first, and then I'm trying to think what it was. Something came up where I just decided that I wanted to go at my own because I had an attorney the first go around in family court up here, and I spent $6,000-7,000.
Oh yeah.
And I got my ass handed to me, and ended up firing her. And I was like, you know what, fuck that. I am not touching an attorney again.
Yeah, I mean that happens too with everything, and it in my scenario, I was like, let's try this out. I can't do this in myself. If anything, I'll get a discount, And I'm glad that I went with that one because I learned a lot about myself. The attorney laid the framework, the foundation for my case up here in Connecticut, because this all started in Virginia Beach, and then because baby mama's in the military, relocation, so it was a very hairy thing between Cuba, Virginia Beach, and Connecticut over like 2 years, So like I was able to take all the court documents that she drafted and model after them for myself as I now that I'm self-represented. So for me, it's been advantageous, learned a lot. It's worth the money that I spent, hindsight, like, and now I can stand here and have that posture and like, listen, this is what's actually happening.
Oh, no, absolutely. I went through, I got a membership to the Bar Association so I could get a better understanding of, case law and family law. I bought a membership to Black's Law Book, I want to say. It's one of the most prestigious, law books that are out there. It's kind of the backbone that everybody goes to, but you can study case law. I took paralegal courses to learn how to write briefs and documentation to communicate with court. And, it was a brutal 6 months. I cut myself off from everybody during those 6 months. I was a middle manager at UPS at the time. So I would go and do that job. I would come home and I would work court stuff until 2 or 3 in the morning. And that's how my life was for the next 6 months until I went down to court. But it was worth it. When I got down to court, my son's mom had an attorney, real snarky lady, and they had been demanding that, I sign away my rights and all this other stuff. And I was just like, hell no. And I tell you, the best part about it is the judge stopped me. He goes, so Mr. Donovan, you're not from around here, are you? I said, nope. He goes, so you came 2,000 miles to be in court here today? I said, yes. He goes, do you know anybody down here besides your son, his mom, and her family? I said, I don't know a soul, not a single person. And he goes, so you brought 13 binders of evidence? I said, yeah, I did. He goes, well, I'm going to tell you something. He goes, and all the time I've been doing this, he goes, you're one of only two or three other fathers that have been so prepared for family court. He goes, wow. He goes, this is really quite a big deal. He goes, I'll tell you what, because at the time, the plan was I was going to move down to where they were at, just so I could be close. He goes, you come down here. If you do move down here, come back and see me and I'll make you the custodial parent. That's a huge thing. You don't hear judges say that. And I was like, holy crap, amazing. And then, I had to get the judge to basically write up orders so I could see my son when I was down there at the time. Because that's how shitty I had gotten, where I was in town for almost a week and they weren't going to let me see him. So basically I had to force my hand, and the judge wrote up the orders and everything. And he made the opposing attorney bring me out the orders out in the chamber outside in the waiting chamber. And she came up, and I mean, you want to talk about a sourpuss looking woman? I mean, if looks could kill, I would have been dead. Wow. And she gave me the order, and I reached out and I shook her hand. And I said, you know what? This was fun. Let's do it again. And I winked at her, and oh my God, she wanted to kill me. She wanted to kill me. Absolutely. Because here I am, a nobody father, and she's spent, how many thousands of dollars on a law degree, and she got her ass kicked. It was awesome. One of those moments, man.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, I'm like right there, because like I said, I've developed those relationships in the clerk's office, like, so I'm either dropping off new paperwork. Some of the paperwork has to be paid for when you file it, they know they're familiar with me, and the social worker, the case manager, they are who they are in the role. But I'm gonna take it as an early win, or I'm gonna celebrate the fact that, her job is a hard one. People go to her and try to use her as a neutral third party to communicate through, but that's not her role. The role is for her to, do her job and then stay out of it. But so me, for sure, especially being new, I'm like, hey, is this what's supposed to be happening? Is this what's supposed to be happening? And she said, before I tell you what she said, my agreement went into effect when I lived within 50 miles of my daughter's new residence. That's, because I said we were moving from state to state or whatever. So we had, when we divorced, we had a holiday and visitation agreement established, final divorce degree signed off, boom. Okay. I then moved within 50 miles. Now this new visitation agreement should be in effect. I domesticated in the state. She signed off on it. She had the opportunity to oppose it. She did not. She approved it. Then from January, February, March, April, all the way up to June, I had like a total of 38 hours from January to June, like 38 hours total, when I'm supposed to see her every other weekend overnight, every single Wednesday, like the whole thing, right? And she had just made this agreement just shy of a year ago, or, just over a year ago at this point. And it's like, she had no intention of upholding her visitation from the get-go. And now she's using COVID, she's using no school, now she's got flu 3 times in a month, she's just doing everything. And then this attorney takes her statement, all false, all verifiable by police call logs, verifiable by state real ID. You know what I mean? Like, you can't get a state real ID unless you actually live somewhere. And so, right now I'm trying to take a breather, but I've read that you can sue the attorney. You can sue the attorney for doing their job. It's like malpractice, just like as a real estate agent. If I did my job wrong, if I tried to steer or did some, some type of illegal act, like steering people away out of a community or trying to control the system, I'll be penalized and I'll lose my license.
Yeah.
So like, maybe after Judgment Day, I'll go after the attorney too. I don't know.
There you go. And you know what? That's awesome that you do. If you do that, I would love to hear about it. I just wish really that the judges themselves could face some kind of legal jeopardy for the shitty decisions that they make.
Wow. Yeah. That's a good
they're all protected. I mean, you can't sue a judge. I mean, you can go out. So there is a judicial board that regulates judges' behavior on cases. And I've heard rumors that you can take a judge up and take them to this board for punishment, but I don't know that it ever goes anywhere. But
how great it would be is if the judge is already there sentencing one party, and based off of the evidence or findings or the result of one party, shouldn't the attorney representing be held accountable in some fashion too?
I would think so. Especially
if I'm saying, the plaintiff through legal counsel violating Civil Rule 11 is doing this, that, and the other, interfering with my 14th Amendment right per the Constitution, verified by all this evidence. How can you say no to that?
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that the legal system, as far as family court, needs to be torn down and rebuilt, because, I'm starting to find out with all the contacts that I have around the United States, a lot of these judges that are family court judges, they don't even have kids. To me, that is a huge thing. If you don't have a child, you should not be deciding on somebody else's role in a child's life. It just shouldn't be that way.
Yep. And that's why in my Schedule A, just because I did read, you need to represent yourself, and judges don't know all the laws, and that's part of the attorney's role, is to remind the judge what they are. So
the fucking attorneys half the time don't know the laws. That's the other part of it.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, it's unreal.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to let you carry on with your afternoon. We'll touch base again between. Is that let me stop recording real quick.
If you like this video, let the world know by hitting the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, every time I release them, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you get notified so you never miss one. You can always stay up to speed. And if you got any value, if you found any golden nuggets from today's video, drop them in the comment below so the next viewer can pick up exactly what you learned and we can all grow together. Because you know what they say, the rising tide lifts all ships and courage is contagious. So help me, help you, help your friends. Take care and thank you.